1. Confucius's young challenger. One day, while Confucius was traveling with his students, they encountered a young boy about 7 or 8 years old, blocking the road with a sandcastle he had built. Seeing this, one of Confucius's students, ZHUAN, shouted at the boy to move aside. Surprisingly, the boy stood up calmly and said, "A cart cannot go through a castle. You must go around it." ZHUAN, frustrated, replied, "Stop being silly. This is Confucius's cart. Move out of the way." But the boy, unfazed, retorted, "Whose cart it is doesn't matter. Let me ask you, should a cart avoid a castle or should a castle move for a cart?" The other students were speechless. At this point, Confucius got down from the cart and spoke gently to the boy, "I'm in a hurry. Could you please clear the way for me?" The boy curiously asked, "What urgent matter are you attending to?" Confucius answered, "We are traveling to teach and share knowledge with others." The boy, eyes wide, looked at Confucius and asked, "Share knowledge? What knowledge do you have to share?" The students were annoyed by the boy's lack of respect, but Confucius calmly replied, "We know about astronomy above and geography below." The boy, mischievously, asked, "Then do you know how many eyebrows you have?" Confucius was taken aback and after a pause replied, "I can't see my own eyebrows, so how would I know?" The boy continued, "Okay, then let me ask something you can see. How many stars are there in the sky?" Confucius was stumped and had to admit, "There are so many stars, it's impossible to count them all." The boy, still playful, then asked, "When is the sun closest to us, and when is it farthest away?" Confucius, realizing his own limitations, responded, "I can't answer your questions, which shows I still have much to learn." 2. MENCIUS'S dedication to learning. Mencius was a great thinker and a famous politician who lived shortly after the era of Confucius. He had a very poor childhood, and after losing his father at a young age, he and his mother relied on each other to get by. Despite these hardships, Mencius was very dedicated to learning. He couldn't afford to pay tuition like other students, so he would stand quietly by the classroom window every day, listening to the teacher's lectures, and learned a lot this way. His mother, seeing his eagerness to learn, felt both pain and pride. She worked tirelessly, day and night, weaving cloth to earn money so Mencius could attend school like other children. Once in school, Mencius's studies improved even more, and he was often praised by his teacher. However, one day, Mencius decided to skip school to play with his friends. When his mother found out, she was heartbroken. She immediately took scissors and cut through the cloth she was weaving, which she had spent many nights working on. Shocked, Mencius asked, "Mother, why did you cut the cloth?" While crying, his mother replied, "Son, you're grown now. Think about it. Neglecting your studies is just like this cloth, cut halfway through. If you want to succeed in life, you must study hard from a young age. Yet today, you wasted your chance to learn by playing with your friends instead of valuing it." After hearing this, Mencius realized his mistake, apologized, and thanked his mother for her guidance. From then on, he studied even harder, and eventually became not only a great thinker but also a renowned politician, not just in China. 3. HABA'S marriage. In the late 4th century BC, the king of Wei appointed the famous general Shimen Bao as the governor of Yidu. Upon arriving in Yidu, Shimen Bao noticed the area was desolate with few inhabitants. He inquired the elders about the cause, who explained that it was due to HABA'S marriage. Shimen Bao was puzzled, asking, "How can HABA get married? That's strange." The elders clarified, "In Yidu, there's the Chong River, and HABA is the river's deity. This deity loves beautiful women and wants to marry one each year. If the people of Yidu offer a beautiful woman to HABA annually, they will have good weather and bountiful harvests. Otherwise, Haba will cause storms and floods resulting in destruction. Jimin Bao further inquired, who started this tradition of marrying women to Haba? The elders responded, an old shaman proposed it. Out of fear, no one dared to disobey. Every year, we must collect 1 million in funds, with 300,000 going to the woman's family and the rest shared among the shaman, nobles, and officials. Jimin Bao asked if everyone was really okay with this arrangement, to which the elders replied, not at all. Every planting season, the shaman inspects every house for beautiful daughters to marry off to Haba. If a family refuses, they must bribe the shaman to look elsewhere. Those too poor to pay have no choice but to sacrifice their daughters. On a chosen day, the shaman performs a ritual by the river and throws the girl into the water to marry Haba. As a result, many families have left their homes out of poverty and fear, leading to even more desolation in Yidu. Jimin Bao pondered this and then asked, has this area always been prone to flooding? The elders explained, the annual sacrifices to Haba have kept floods at bay. Moreover, the terrain here is slightly elevated, so flooding is less of an issue. However, Yidu often faces droughts, causing much hardship. Realizing the truth, Jimin Bao said, if Haba is so divine, I will participate in the next marriage ceremony to plead for your well-being. When the day arrived, he dressed formally and personally went to the riverbank where over 1,000 people, including nobles and officials, had gathered. The old shaman, nearly 70 and arrogantly dressed, introduced Jimin Bao to a young woman dressed beautifully but of average looks. Jimin Bao declared, a divine being like Haba deserves a truly beautiful bride. Tell Haba to return when he finds a suitable one, and then ordered his guards to throw the shaman into the river. The nobles were terrified, but none dared speak. After a while, Jimin Bao ordered, the old shaman doesn't know how to handle this, making everyone wait too long. Send her disciples to hurry her up. More disciples were thrown into the river. Finally, Jimin Bao declared, since they are women and lack persuasive power, let a man try speaking to her. As the chaos unfolded and the nobles and officials grew increasingly pale and desperate, Jimin Bao said, look at the churning waters. There is no Haba. Why should innocent lives be lost each year? You must make amends. The nobles and officials quickly admitted they had been deceived by the shaman. Afterward, Jimin Bao confiscated all the assets of the nobles and officials, redistributing them to the poor to compensate for years of unjust taxes for Haba's marriage. He also ordered the construction of a canal to redirect water from the Chong River to irrigate the fields and mitigate floods and droughts, thus improving the lives of Yidu's citizens. Over time, those who had left began returning to their homeland to settle down once again. 4. MENCIUS'S compassion, healing a family's heart. Mencius, a student of Confucius, lost his mother at a young age. Soon after, his father remarried. His stepmother was harsh and indifferent to her stepson. After she had 2 sons of her own, she treated Mencius even worse, but she hid her true feelings in front of her husband. One freezing winter day, Mencius drove to pick up his father. Shivering in his thick wool coat, his father felt something was off and checked the coat, only to find it was stuffed with reeds, not cotton, which couldn't keep the cold out. At home, his father noticed his half-brother's coats were properly filled with warm cotton. Angry, he confronted his wife. I can't believe you've treated my son so poorly. I don't want to see you anymore. Leave. Seeing his stepmother packing and crying with his young brothers also upset and clinging to her, Mencius felt torn. He knelt before his father and pleaded, Father, if she stays, only I suffer the cold. If she leaves, none of us will have anyone to take care of us. Please don't make her leave. Moved by his words, his father decided not to send the stepmother away. Ashamed by MENCIUS'S plea for her, she never mistreated him again.
If you like this video, please comment 1, and if you don't, comment 2. Your feedback means a lot to us. Thank you for your valuable time.
5. ZHAO's early learning. ZHAO was a famous scholar during the Eastern Han Dynasty. As a child, his family was very poor, and because their home was small, his sister often took him outside to play. Near their home was a wealthy family with many children who had a tutor teach at their house. The classroom was right by the street, separated only by a thin bamboo wall. ZHAO's sister liked to hold him up next to the wall so they could listen to the lessons from the classroom. At just 5 years old, ZHAO would listen intently, his eyes wide open, captivated by what was happening inside the classroom. Regardless of whether it was a hot summer or a cold winter day, the siblings stood by the bamboo wall to listen to the lessons every day. As he grew older, ZHAO no longer needed his sister to carry him and started going on his own to listen to the teachings. Later, he even climbed a tree next to the classroom to secretly watch the teacher write. Fearing he might forget what he learned, ZHAO found a way to peel bark from mulberry trees, trim it neatly, fold it, and use it as notebooks to write down the words and poems he had learned by eavesdropping. He would often review his notes to further understand the material, and soon he achieved a level of education that few in his situation could reach. By the age of 10, ZHAO could fluently read classics like the Book of Songs and the Book of Changes without any errors. His parents were amazed and asked him how he could be so knowledgeable without formal schooling. ZHAO smiled and said, "It's because, when I was little, my sister used to take me to secretly learn from others." The villagers admired ZHAO's intelligence and eagerness to learn, and as he grew up, many people traveled long distances to seek him as their teacher because of his reputation. Some even moved near his house to make it easier for their children to study with him. Although ZHAO had many students, his teaching method was unique. He didn't use books, but taught orally as he had learned in his youth. He believed this method helped students enhance their memory and analytical skills. 6. Astronomer TRUONG HOAN. TRUONG HOAN was a famous Chinese scientist during the Eastern Han Dynasty. He was raised by his grandparents after his father died early. His grandfather, a retired government official, valued education greatly and personally taught TRUONG HOAN every day. With his natural intelligence, TRUONG HOAN was highly skilled in poetry and literature. However, his favorite activity was counting stars on clear nights. His grandmother would often say, "Oh, you silly boy, there are too many stars for you to count." To which TRUONG HOAN replied, "I like counting them, Grandma. It's so much fun. Look, they even move." His grandmother would then exclaim, "How can stars move, my boy? You must be seeing things." This would lead to heated debates, as TRUONG HOAN argued that if stars couldn't move, then why would some appear at one spot and later be seen elsewhere, while others not visible initially would later appear in the sky? To answer his long-standing questions, TRUONG HOAN sought every available astronomy book he could find and read voraciously. The more he learned, the more he became fascinated by astronomy, to the point of forgetting to eat or sleep. His relentless study and research eventually made him a distinguished scholar in astronomy. Besides his famous work LING, he also invented the first automatic astronomical device and the world's first seismoscope. In recognition of his significant contributions, the International Astronomical Union named a mountain range on the moon after him, and the ZHUAN Astronomical Observatory in China recently named a newly discovered asteroid after him. 7. ZHUAN saves her father. During the Han Dynasty, 3 severe punishments were commonly enforced: branding criminals' faces with indelible marks, cutting off their noses, and amputating their legs. However, these brutal practices were abolished thanks to the actions of a surprising figure, an 11-year-old girl named Thuan Vu Daoan. Daoan was the youngest daughter of Thuan Vu Wei, a local official and skilled physician who often treated the sick for free and refused to serve the wealthy if it conflicted with his principles. This stance made him unpopular among the powerful. One day, a powerful individual whom Thuan Vu Wei had refused to treat falsely accused him of deceit and disregarding human life. As a result, the local authorities, fearing to oppose this influential accuser, arrested Thuan Vu Wei and sent him to the capital Chang'an to face humiliating punishment. When it was time to depart, his 5 daughters tearfully said goodbye, hugging each other in despair. Thuan Vu Wei expressed his regret at not having a son to help him in such times. Hearing this, Daoan declared, "Father, a daughter can also make a difference. I will go to Chang'an with you." Despite her father and sister's objections, Daoan packed some personal belongings and accompanied her father. Along the way, her devoted care for him deeply moved the escorting soldiers. Once they arrived in Chang'an while Thuan Vu Wei was imprisoned awaiting punishment, Daoan tirelessly sought ways to save him. Eventually, she took a bold step and wrote a letter to the Emperor Han Wendi himself. Astonished by the courage of such a young girl, the emperor read her plea and was so moved that he ordered Thuan Vu Wei's release, allowing father and daughter to return home. This act also prompted Han Wendi to issue a decree abolishing the 3 cruel punishments throughout the empire. 8. The Philanthropist. The philanthropist, also known as Dien Van, was the son of Dien An, the Prime Minister of the state of T. He was born on May 5th. According to the superstitions of that time, children born on this day were believed to bring misfortune to their parents. Consequently, Dien An ordered that Dien Van be abandoned. However, Dien An's wife, Mrs. Ko, deeply pitied her infant son and secretly found a way to keep him, quietly raising him herself. Years later, one day as Dien An was passing by a small room in a corner of their estate, he heard the voice of a child reading fluently. Intrigued, he entered the room and, to his surprise, found Mrs. Ko teaching the boy. Surprised and curious, he demanded to know the child's identity. Mrs. Ko, overwhelmed with fear, was speechless, but Dien Van, showing no fear, knelt before Dien An and called out, "Father." After learning the truth, Dien An angrily scolded Mrs. Ko and ordered his soldiers to execute Dien Van. Dien Van then asked his father, "Why are children born on May 5th considered a misfortune to their parents?" Dien An replied, "You wouldn't understand, it's fate. Humans cannot argue with it." Dien Van responded, "If human fate is dictated by destiny, how can I influence your fate?" Dien An was left speechless, not knowing how to respond, but internally he admired the child's intelligence and decided to spare Dien Van. As he grew up, Dien Van indeed became one of the most outstanding politicians of his time. 9. Clever young Cao Chong weighs an elephant. During the Three Kingdoms period in China, the regions were divided among Wei, Shu, and Wu. Wei was considered the strongest at that time. The king of Wu, wishing to gain favor with Wei, sent a large elephant as a gift to the prime minister of Wei, Cao Cao. Elephants were rare in the north, so the sight of this elephant intrigued Cao Cao and his officials. Out of curiosity, Cao Cao wanted to know how much the elephant weighed, but his officials were puzzled because there were no scales large enough to weigh it. While the officials were at a loss, Cao Cao's 6-year-old son, Cao Chong, said confidently that he had a way to weigh the elephant. The officials were skeptical, thinking how could a young child succeed where they had failed. Cao Chong asked the soldiers to lead the elephant onto an empty boat anchored on the river. As the elephant boarded, the boat sank slightly and then stabilized. Cao Chong marked the waterline on the side of the boat. Then he had the elephant led back to shore, and the boat rose back to its initial position. Next, he instructed the soldiers to load the boat with stones until it sank to the marked waterline. After achieving this, he had the stones weighed. This clever method revealed the weight of the elephant, impressing everyone and making Cao Cao very proud of his son's ingenuity. 10. QUACH Sha NHAN saves his foster mother. During the reign of Emperor Wu of Han, there was a skilled artisan named QUACH Han who was highly favored by the emperor. As a child, Emperor Wu was raised by the mother of Marquis of Dongwu, who was from the Quoc family. Thus, even as an adult, Emperor Wu always referred to her as his foster mother. After conquering the realm and becoming the founding emperor of the Han dynasty, Emperor Wu continued to cherish his foster mother, inviting her to the court every month. Each visit was marked with generous gifts and lavish feasts in her honor. Additionally, Emperor Wu provided her with a splendid carriage for her use and often fulfilled many of her requests. For these reasons, all the court officials held great respect for her. Unexpectedly, her servants, emboldened by her status, began to terrorize the city of Chang'an. They would brazenly rob the citizens in broad daylight. Traditionally, if servants broke the law, their masters would also be punished. After passing judgment, Emperor Wu, reluctant to punish his foster mother harshly, decided to relocate her entire household to a distant frontier. When she received the emperor's order, she requested a final audience with Emperor Wu to bid him farewell. Before the audience, she sought the help of QUACH Sha NHAN, as she had heard of his esteemed intelligence and hoped he could find a way to help her. Upon meeting him, she cried bitterly, expressing her reluctance to leave Emperor Wu. QUACH Sha NHAN advised her, "After saying goodbye, leave immediately, but as you walk away, turn back to look at His Majesty 3 times, and all will be well." The next day, she followed QUACH Sha NHAN's advice exactly. When she looked back at Emperor Wu for the 3rd time, QUACH Sha NHAN loudly reprimanded her. "O old woman, the emperor is grown. Does he still need your milk to survive that you keep looking back?" This statement touched Emperor Wu's heart, prompting him to revoke his previous decision and punish only the guilty servants. 11. Tao Kuei's strategic battle against the state of Qi. During the spring and autumn period, Qi was a major power in the east. After assuming power, King HOAN of Qi valued the services of Guanzhong, a man of towering ambition. King HOAN dreamt of leading all the vassal states. However, the small state of Lu refused to submit to Qi, leading to a conflict between them. In 684 BC, King HOAN ordered Bao Shu NHA to lead a massive army to attack the city of Changshuo in Lu. Seeing the Qi forces approaching the border, Lu's ruler, Duke TRUONG, urgently discussed with his minister Shiba, asking, "Qi is too oppressive. How can we protect ourselves?" Shiba suggested, "I recommend a person who can ensure our victory against mighty Qi." Intrigued, Duke TRUONG asked, "Who might that be?" Shiba replied, "A friend of mine, Tao Kuei, who has been living reclusively in Dongbin countryside. Although he has never held an official position, I believe he is a genius of this world." Duke TRUONG sent Shiba to invite Tao Kuei. When Shiba arrived, Tao Kuei laughed and said, "All the nobles in the court eat meat and cannot think of a way to face the enemy. So why come to me? a simple villager who eats vegetables. Shiba responded, "A man who eats vegetables but has strategies will soon have meat to eat. The military situation is critical. Please come with me." Without waiting, he hurriedly took Tao Kuei to meet Duke Truong. Tao Kuei immediately asked Duke Truong, "On what basis do you intend to fight Qi?" Duke Truong replied, "Everything I consume, I share with all." Tao Kuei said, "Your Majesty, how many people really benefit from such small kindness?" Duke Truong claimed, "I have always sincerely made sacrifices to the gods." Tao Kuei countered, "This is merely a duty, not necessarily a divine assistance." Duke Truong added, "Any grievances from our people are always fairly resolved." Tao Kuei praised, "Excellent. A just and loyal ruler will surely have the people's support, and that alone can lead us to victory." Duke Truong then asked for military strategies, and Tao Kuei advised, "On the battlefield, one must adapt to circumstances. Please provide a chariot for me to join you and devise tactics timely." Overjoyed, Duke Truong took Tao Kuei directly to Changshuo. When the Qi general, Bao Shu NHA, heard that Duke Truong was leading the troops himself, he ordered his soldiers to prepare for battle and immediately launched an attack, aiming to crush the Lu forces quickly. However, Tao Kuei instructed, "The enemy is strong now. We should maintain our stability." He also ordered, "Anyone causing panic will be beheaded." When the Qi troops advanced, they found the Lu army unmoved, which eventually forced them to retreat. As the Qi drums sounded again, Tao Kuei advised against responding, causing Qi to become confused about Lu's intentions. Qi's morale declined steadily with each drumming. After the third round, when Qi's spirit was at its lowest, Tao Kuei saw the opportunity for Lu to strike. The Qi, thinking Lu did not want to fight after two previous silent reactions, were unprepared when Lu finally charged, leading to Qi's swift defeat. Duke Truong was eager to pursue the fleeing enemy, but Tao Kuei cautioned, "Please wait, let's observe first before deciding." After assessing the chaotic retreat of Qi, Tao Kuei confirmed, "Now we can pursue them." Duke Truong followed this advice, leading to a victorious capture of numerous prisoners. After the victory, Duke Truong inquired about the reasons for their success. Tao Kuei explained, "One must rely on the courage of the soldiers. The initial drum boosts morale, but continuous drumming can deplete it. By withholding our response until the third round, we preserved our strength while Qi exhausted theirs." Duke Truong, impressed, exclaimed, "Sir, you truly are a master of military tactics." He then appointed Tao Kuei as a high official, and Shiba was also rewarded for his recommendation. If you find these stories inspiring and they motivate you to take action, please comment 9. If not, comment 0. Your feedback means a lot to us. Thank you for your valuable time. 12. Desert Deception, a strategic escape in ancient warfare. General Quan Trong utilized a clever strategy in a dire situation. After General Tuowan defeated the nation of Ling Qi, King Mi Lu of Ling Qi fled to the nation of Ko-Truk. The people of Ling Qi and Ko-Truk, both belonging to the Sun Nung tribe, had previously collaborated to disturb China. The king of Ko-Truk, Dali Ka, comforted Mi Lu, saying, "I was about to send troops to rescue you but was delayed by a few days, forcing you into this predicament. Rest assured, I have a plan that doesn't require any great warriors and can still defeat Tuowan's army and reclaim your kingdom." Dalai Ka secretly instructed his general Huang Hua, who nodded in agreement and then withdrew. Dalai Ka immediately ordered all the people and soldiers in the capital city, Wu De, to retreat into the Yang mountain caves. Overnight, Wu De turned into a ghost town. When Tuowan's massive army approached Kotruk to capture Milu and take advantage of the situation to eliminate Kotruk, they received news that General Huang Hua of Kotruk wished to meet with Tuowan. Huang Hua came forward offering King Milu's head to Tuowan, and kneeling he said, "Dali Ka, influenced by Milu, has hidden his people in the desert and is also seeking foreign aid for a revenge attack. I advised them to surrender, but they did not listen, so I had to resort to killing Milu to offer his head to you and ask for your mercy in capturing Dali Ka." Huang Hua also offered his valuable horse to Tuowan. Convinced by the sight of Milu's head, Tuowan agreed for Huang Hua to lead his troops directly to Wu De, which they found completely abandoned, further convincing Tuowan of Huang Hua's loyalty. As they pursued Dali Ka into the desert named Han Hai by locals and also known as Mekak, a place of relentless sandstorms and scorching heat with scarce water and vegetation, they suddenly lost track of Huang Hua. Tuowan did not realize that he had fallen into Dali Ka's trap. The desert was vast and disorienting, with sandstorms that made visibility nearly impossible. By nightfall, unable to see and exhausted, Tuowan's troops were lost without a sense of direction. At dawn, they saw no one around in the perilous terrain. In desperation, Tuowan's horse, gifted by Huang Hua, appeared unusually large and strong. Quan, seeing this, asked about its origins. Realizing it was from the desert, he suggested using the horse to find a way out. Removing the bridle and striking the horse, it ran off instinctively. Quan and his troops followed the horse's tracks through a winding path. Eventually, they escaped the desert, elated by their miraculous survival and considering it divine intervention. Quan remarked, "Huang Hua's horse knew the desert paths well, and when struck, it naturally found its way back. Perhaps it will even lead us to Kotruk's hiding place." Indeed, following the horse's tracks led Tuowan's troops to ambush Wu De, capturing Dali Ka and eliminating Huang Hua, thereby conquering Kotruk. 13. Ying convinces King Ling of Chu. In the late spring and autumn period, the state of Chu in the south grew increasingly powerful. Upon ascending the throne, King Ling of Chu became exceedingly arrogant. He believed that no other state could compare to Chu, even disregarding the Zhou dynasty, and even harbored ambitions to seize the title of emperor from them. The vassal states, intimidated by Chu's might, either sent tributaries in fear or visited to maintain peace, resulting in a continuous stream of emissaries to Chu. Among these was Ying, a diplomat from Qi sent to foster good relations with Chu. King Ling, aware of Ying's imminent arrival, remarked to his ministers, "Although Ying is only 5 feet tall and unimpressive in appearance, he is highly respected. I want to use this opportunity to humiliate him and show Qi that we do not regard them at all. Do any of you have a clever plan?" One minister suggested a cunning ploy that delighted the king. That night, the king ordered his men to drill a small hole, about 5 feet high, next to the city's east gate. He instructed his guards, "When the Qi emissary arrives, do not open the gates but direct him to enter through this hole." When Ying arrived in his worn leather attire, riding a decrepit chariot, and found the gates closed, he commanded his driver to ask for the gates to be opened. The guards pointed to the small hole and said, "This hole should suffice for your entry. Why need the gates be opened?" Ying responded, "This is a hole for dogs, not for men. Only in a land of dogs would one enter through such a hole. In a land of men, one must enter through a gate made for men." The guards reported this to King Ling, who was embarrassed by his own plan backfiring. Later, as Ying entered the city, 2 magnificent chariots approached, carrying robust, armor-clad warriors. Though it appeared to be a welcoming gesture, King Ling's intent was to make Yan Ying feel embarrassed about his small stature. Yan Ying shouted, "I have come to Chu to foster friendship, not to fight. Why have you sent warriors to meet me?" The warriors, taken aback, stepped aside, letting Yan Ying proceed to the palace with dignity. During an audience with King Ling, the king mockingly asked, "Has Qi no better men to send?" Yan Ying replied, "In Qi, even a single drop of sweat can bring forth rain. People throng the streets so densely they jostle each other. How can you say we have no people?" King Ling then asked why a man of such small stature was sent as an emissary. Yan Ying explained, "It is our custom. Good men are sent to good lands, the disrespectful to the disrespectful, the large to large lands, and the small to smaller states. Being both small and disrespectful, I was naturally sent to Chu." King Ling was silenced by this retort but inwardly amazed. Later, when King Ling was presented with tangerines, he gave one to Yan Ying, who ate it whole, peel and seeds included. King Ling laughed and exclaimed, "Do people in Qi not know how to eat tangerines, that they eat even the peel?" Yan Ying replied, "Food given by a king should not be peeled or altered. I had to eat it as it was presented." When soldiers later escorted a prisoner accused of theft through the palace, King Ling asked about the prisoner's origin. Learning he was from Qi, the king inquired about the crime. Yan Ying, recognizing a provocation, responded, "Just as a tangerine from the south is sweet and turns sour in the north due to the soil, this man from Qi did not steal at home but turned to theft in Chu, influenced by your land." Embarrassed once more, King Ling could not respond and later admitted, "I intended to disgrace you, but instead you have shamed me." Following this, King Ling treated Yan Ying with great respect before his departure. 14. The cunning of Kong Tan Chi in capturing a talented official. Duke Mu of Qin, one of the 5 overlords among the feudal lords, sent an envoy to the state of Jin to propose marriage. Duke Xian of Jin, fearing Qin's power, did not dare to refuse and agreed to marry his daughter, Ba Ko, to Duke Mu. As per tradition, a group of servants, both male and female, accompanied Ba Ko to Qin. Among these servants was Bak Lai He, originally from the state of Yu. After Yu was conquered by Jin and the Duke of Yu taken prisoner, Bak Lo. He followed him to Jin. Duke Xian of Jin, valuing talent, wanted to appoint Bak Lai He to an official position, but Bak Lai He, not wanting to serve the enemy, refused. This infuriated Duke Xian, who humiliated him by making him a servant accompanying Ba Ko to Qin. Duke Mu of Qin was surprised to see Bak Li He's name on the list of servants, and knowing his governance skills, personally sought him out, determined to employ him. However, he learned that Bak Lai He had escaped en route to the state of Chu. Bak Lai He, having grown up in poverty, was once a cowherder and beggar. He later self-educated and became skilled. Unfortunately, his talent was unrecognized by the mediocre Duke of Yu, leading to a life of discontent. Having been captured as a servant, Bak Lai He felt deeply humiliated and risked his life to escape to the mountains of Chu, where he was found by hunters and, mistaken for a spy, was tied up. Later, realizing his skill in herding, they freed him to help herd cattle, which thrived under his care, spreading his fame. This news reached the king of Chu, who then sent him to herd horses in the South Sea, unaware of his exceptional abilities. Upon learning this, Duke Mu of Qin joyously prepared to send an envoy with treasures to Chu to request Bak Lai He's release, thinking, "Surely the king of Chu will release such an ordinary horse herder for such a generous gift." However, Kong Tan Chi, a great minister, warned him that this would only reveal Bach Lai, his true worth, and the king of Chu might then refuse to let him go. He advised a simpler approach: offer a modest ransom to redeem a runaway servant, which would likely not arouse suspicion. Duke Mu of Qin praised Kong Tan Chi for his brilliant strategy and sent an envoy with 5 goatskins to Chu. The king of Chu, not wanting to upset Qin over a mere servant, agreed. Bach Li. He was returned to Qin, where he was eventually appointed as a leading general, ushering in a period of military strength and fame for Qin. Despite his initial situation, Bach Li, he laughed upon leaving Chu, telling his fellow herders, "Qin is not bringing me back to execute me, but to use my talents. I'm about to become wealthy and honored, so why do you weep?" 15. The fisherman defends without arms. King Bin of So accused Nu Sha and Ngu Thuong, the father and brother of Ngu Tu Than, of plotting a rebellion and executed them both. In 506 BC, Ngu Tu Than raised an army and, with the support of the state of Wu, attacked the state of So to avenge his father and brother. Eventually, the Wu forces captured the capital of So Yidu, but since King Bin had already died, Ngu Tu Than ordered his tomb opened and struck his corpse 300 times to satisfy his long-standing grudge. Suspecting that Prince ZHAO, King Bin's son, had escaped to the state of TRUONG, Ngu Tu Than then besieged its capital, determined to destroy TRUONG. Fearing for his state, the ruler of TRUONG, Duke Din Kong, promised land to anyone who could persuade the Wu army to withdraw. After this announcement was posted everywhere, a young fisherman requested an audience with Din Kong, claiming he had a way to make the Wu army retreat. When asked how many troops would be needed, the fisherman replied that he needed only an oar to carry while singing loudly. This alone would make the Wu army retreat. Skeptical but out of options, Din Kong gave him an oar. The young fisherman then used a rope to descend the city walls and approach the Wu camp. At the gate, he knocked on his oar and sang out, "People in the reeds! People in the reeds!" The soldiers captured him and brought him to Ngu Tu Than. In front of Ngu Tu Than, the fisherman continued singing. Intrigued, Ngu Tu Than asked who he was. The young man raised his oar and revealed himself as the son of Ngu Truong NHAN. Hearing this name, Ngu Tu Than, moved to tears, bowed deeply in respect. Years earlier, when Ngu Tu Than was fleeing from King Bin, he had been saved by a fisherman named Ngu Truong NHAN, who helped him cross a river and later refused any reward, valuing honor over riches. The memory of this rescue filled Ngu Tu Than with sorrow. Today, moved by the young fisherman's act and reminded of his father's sacrifice, Ngu Tu Than ordered his army to retreat, thus sparing the state of Trin. The young fisherman returned to Trin Din Kong, who joyfully granted him more than 100 miles of land, and the people praised him as Ngu Dai Fu, the great doctor of fish. 16. ZHUAN Wu Kun sets a bird free to gain favor. King Qi, wishing to foster friendly relations with the state of Chu, sent his diplomat ZHUAN Wu Kun with a very large white crane as a gift to King Chu. ZHUAN confined the crane in an iron cage, placed it on a cart and set off, whipping the horses to begin his journey. As he departed, ZHUAN thought to himself, "This is just a small gift, and surely the reward from King Chu won't be significant, nor can I expect him to value our state highly. Moreover, the journey from Qi to Chu is incredibly long, and taking care of this crane is truly a hardship. It might be better to just let it go." Thinking this, as soon as he left the city gates of Linzi, ZHUAN opened the cage and let the crane fly away. Normally, defying a royal command could lead to death, but ZHUAN was unafraid. As the bird flew off, he calmly continued on his way to Chu. King Chu was overjoyed upon hearing that a key envoy had come to present a gift, so when ZHUAN arrived in the capital, he was immediately summoned to court. However, to King Chu's surprise, ZHUAN appeared empty-handed, which made the king feel suspicious and wonder if King Qi was playing a trick on Chu. Noticing King Chu's displeased and suspicious expression, ZHUAN stepped forward and explained, "King Qi sent me to present a white crane to your majesty, but unfortunately, because of the long journey and not wanting it to suffer from hunger and thirst, I risked letting it out of the cage for feeding. Unfortunately, as soon as it was released, it struggled free from my grasp and flew away. I felt I had let down King Qi and was too ashamed to face your majesty, so I considered ending my life to atone for this. However, I thought dying would be trivial, but people might suspect that King Qi valued the crane more than the life of an envoy, so I did not go through with it. Indeed, I found myself in a dilemma, thinking that there are countless birds in the world. Why not replace it with a similar crane? But then I feared deceiving King Qi, and I couldn't be disloyal. I even thought about fleeing to another country to seek refuge, but I feared that would ruin the friendly relations between Qi and Chu and would be something I'd regret all my life. So now, I've risked telling your majesty the whole truth, asking you to judge me as you see fit." After finishing, ZHUAN knelt down, awaiting judgment. ZHUAN's story deeply moved King Chu, who quickly asked him to stand up and said, "Qi is fortunate to have an envoy like you who commands my respect. The loss of a crane is not significant. Please do not worry about it anymore." Impressed by ZHUAN's integrity, King Chu treated him with great honor and rewarded him with much more gold and silver than the value of the crane.
If you like this video, please comment 1. And if you don't, comment 2. Your feedback means a lot to us. Thank you for your valuable time.
17. Strategic alliances and personal rivalries in the Warring States era. Zhang Yi from Wei and Su Qin from Luoyang were both students of the wise teacher Gui Guzi. They were close friends who eventually considered each other as brothers. At that time, Qin was the strongest of the 7 warring states. The other 6 states often competed with each other to establish their dominance. After completing his studies, Su Qin traveled across these states to persuade them to unite against Qin. King ZHAO of ZHAO was very impressed by Su Qin's proposal and appointed him as a general, leading to Su Qin's wealth and prosperity. Meanwhile, after his education, Zhang Yi returned home and lived a modest life, feeling disillusioned and giving up on advancing his career. During a particularly low point in his life, a merchant suggested that Zhang Yi should seek fortune in ZHAO, where Su Qin was now a general. The merchant even offered Zhang Yi a ride to Handan, the capital of ZHAO. Upon arriving in Handan, Zhang Yi tried to meet with Su Qin, but after waiting for days, he was told that the general was too busy and asked him to wait at an inn. Days passed without any news, which frustrated Zhang Yi immensely. He wanted to leave but couldn't afford the lodging fee, forcing him to stay. Finally, after more waiting, Zhang Yi was called into the general's mansion. He quickly borrowed some presentable clothes from the innkeeper and went to meet Su Qin. At the mansion, however, Zhang Yi had to wait outside even longer. Eventually, he was called in and saw Su Qin sitting majestically, barely acknowledging him. Despite his anger, Zhang Yi composed himself and greeted Su Qin, who then invited him to eat. The table for Zhang Yi had simple dishes, whereas Su Qin's table was filled with delicacies. Hungry, Zhang Yi ate. After the meal, Su Qin called him to talk. Zhang Yi angrily confronted Su Qin for humiliating him despite their past friendship. Su Qin countered by saying that if Zhang Yi could make his own fortune, he wouldn't have needed to seek help. Su Qin then offered him some gold to start anew, but Zhang Yi threw the gold on the ground and stormed off, feeling even more humiliated. Back at the inn, Zhang Yi worried about how to pay for his stay and felt lost about his future. Then, the same merchant who had advised him before showed up. The merchant, feeling responsible for Zhang Yi's plight, offered to pay his debts and take him home. But Zhang Yi expressed a desire to go to Qin and seek revenge on Su Qin by using Qin's military strength. The merchant revealed he was also traveling to Qin, and they agreed to go together. In Qin, the merchant generously supported Zhang Yi, who was eventually introduced to King Huiwen of Qin. The king recognized Zhang Yi's talents and appointed him as an advisor. Zhang Yi and the king often discussed strategies to dominate the other states. Later, when the merchant prepared to leave, Zhang Yi tearfully thanked him for his support. The merchant explained that all his actions were orchestrated by Su Qin, who had anticipated Zhang Yi's moves and used them to strengthen the alliance against Qin. Zhang Yi realized he had been outmaneuvered by Su Qin and asked the merchant to convey his gratitude and assurance that he would never let Qin invade ZHAO as long as Su Qin was in charge. 18. Feng HOAN helps the generous patron. Feng HOAN admired the reputation of a generous patron named Man Thuong Quan. This well-known general from the state of Te often had about 3,000 guests at his home. One day, a strong man named Feng HOAN came to introduce himself. Man Thuong Quan asked what his special skills were. Feng HOAN replied that he had no special skills. He had only heard that the general was generous and liked to welcome guests from everywhere, so he came to visit. Although Man Thuong Quan didn't think much of Feng HOAN, he kept him as a guest anyway. Feng HOAN stayed under Man Thuong Quan's roof for a year but didn't seem to do anything useful, so he didn't get much attention. One day, the house manager reported to Man Thuong Quan that because there were more and more guests, the expenses were rising, and there was only enough money to last another month. Man Thuong Quan had lent a lot of money in his hometown area of Tiet Dia. After reviewing his accounts, he realized that there was still a lot of debt to be collected. He asked the house manager, "Who among the guests can go to Tiet Dia to collect these debts?" The manager replied, "Mr. Feng might not have any particular talents, but he is honest. Please try sending him." So Man Thuong Quan asked Feng HOAN to handle the debt collection. Feng HOAN immediately accepted the task and took the debt papers with him to Tiet Dia. When the debtors in Tiet Dia heard that someone was coming on behalf of Man Thuong Quan to collect debts, they all came forward to pay, and he collected more than 100,000. With this money, Feng HOAN bought meat and wine and announced, "Anyone who owes Man Thuong Quan, whether you can pay or not, must come to the courthouse tomorrow to check the debt papers." When the people heard there was food and drink, they all came on time. While hosting the feast, Feng HOAN observed who was truly wealthy and who was struggling. After everyone had eaten and drunk their fill, he reviewed the debt papers. For those who were really in dire straits and couldn't pay immediately, he had them write a promise to pay later. For those who couldn't pay at all, he burned their debt papers. He then told everyone, "Man Thuong Quan lent you the money not to make a profit but to help you make a living. Because the general has to support thousands of guests, he had to come here to collect the debts. Today, those who can't pay now, we will defer your debt, and those who really can't pay, your debts are forgiven." Man Thuong Quan's kindness to the people of Tiet Dia is indeed great. Hearing this, everyone cheered. Man Thuong Quan is truly a parent to the people. When Peng HOAN returned to Man Thuong Quan empty-handed, Man Thuong Quan asked, "Was it difficult? Did you collect all the debts?" Feng HOAN replied, Not only did I collect the debts, but I also gathered your kindness." After explaining everything, Mon Thuong Quan, worried about the expenses, said, "I was eagerly waiting for the money, but instead of seeing any money, you burned the debt papers and said you collected kindness. What kind of kindness is that?" Phung Hoan answered, "Tiet Dia is your land, and the people share peace and safety with you. For those who couldn't pay their debts, it's better to burn those useless papers and let your reputation for kindness spread everywhere. That's the kindness I collected for you." Monk Thuong Quan had no choice but to reluctantly thank him for his good intentions. The story of Phung Hoan's clever handling of the debts not only showed his practical wisdom, but also highlighted the enduring values of kindness and understanding in leadership. 19. TRUONG brings a jade to the kingdom of ZHAO. The king of ZHAO received a famous white jade from the HOA family. This jade was transparent and would naturally shine in the dark. It could also repel mosquitoes and regulate body temperature, keeping the wearer warm in winter and cool in summer. When King Chu of Qin heard about this jade, he sent an envoy to offer 15 cities in exchange for it. King Zhao felt conflicted because Qin was a powerful kingdom, and refusing could lead to anger, while agreeing might mean losing the jade without gaining cities. King Zhao called a council with his ministers. One suggested sending a wise and brave envoy to negotiate directly. If the cities were given, Qin would keep the jade. Otherwise, it would be returned. Mao Hien, an official, recommended a man named Lan Tuong Nu for the task, praising his courage and intelligence. King Zhao summoned Lan Tuong Nu, who accepted the mission and promised to return the jade if the cities weren't handed over. Upon Lan Tuong Nu's arrival in Qin, the jade was so luminous that it dazzled everyone, including King Qin, who exclaimed its rarity and beauty. However, when King Qin did not mention the promised cities, Lan Tuong Nu cleverly pointed out a supposed flaw in the jade, regaining possession of it under the pretense of showing the flaw to the king. Confronting King Qin, Lan Tuong Nu declared that if the cities were not given as promised, he would destroy the jade rather than let it fall into Qin's hands. Fearing the loss of the jade, King Qin hastily agreed to transfer the cities to Zhao. However, suspecting Qin's sincerity, Lan Tuong Nu escaped back to Zhao, disguised as a commoner. King Qin, having failed to honor his word, commanded Lan Tuong Nu's arrest. Lan Tuong Nu boldly faced the situation, stating that Qin's reputation for deceit was well known and challenging Qin to prove its honor by first transferring the cities as promised. Eventually, King Qin realized killing Lan Tuong Nu would only disgrace Qin further. Therefore, he released Lan Tuong Nu, who returned to Zhao and was honored for his bravery. The matter of the jade and the cities was no longer pursued by either kingdom. 20. Requesting rewards before going to war. In 225 BC, 4 years before Qin Shi Huang unified China, the king of Qin was determined to conquer the state of Chu. He first asked General Li Xin how many troops would be needed for the campaign. Li Xin responded that 200,000 soldiers would suffice. The king then inquired of the veteran general Wang Jian, who advised that at least 600,000 troops were necessary. The king thought, "The old are timid, not as brave as the young," and chose Li Xin for the task. Unfortunately, Li Xin was defeated by Xiang Yan, a famous general from Chu. Realizing his mistake, the king personally visited Wang Jian, agreeing to give him 600,000 troops. When it was time to leave, the king went to see off General Wang Jian. At this moment, Wang Jian asked the king for a reward and presented a map showing fertile lands within the capital, hoping his descendants might benefit from the king's generosity. The king replied, "If you return victorious, we will share the riches together, not just these lands." He then approved Wang Jian's request. Later, as the troops reached Hami Pass, Wang Jian asked the king for additional estates, which the king also approved. Wang Jian's deputy Meng Wu questioned if the request was excessive. Wang Jian explained that with the king known for his forceful and suspicious nature, showing concern for his descendants would alleviate any doubts the king might harbor about his loyalty, especially given his old age and disinterest in personal wealth. Meng Wu deeply admired this strategic depth. When the state of Chu heard of Qin's impending attack, they requested an additional 200,000 troops. However, Wang Jian set up camp at the border without launching an offensive and instead built extensive fortifications. Despite daily provocations from Chu, Qin's troops did not engage. Chu's general Xiang Yan remarked, "Old Wang Jian lacks courage. His presence is merely for defense." This relaxed Chu's vigilance. Meanwhile, Wang Jian allowed his soldiers leisure, encouraging games like stone throwing using spring-loaded wooden devices to launch heavy stones. Observations of these games helped Wang Jian assess the army's morale without seeming aggressive. After more than a year of stalemate, Wang Jian suddenly held a feast and announced the start of the offensive. The troops, eager to prove themselves, responded with enthusiastic cheers, ready to rush into battle. Wang Jian formed a special brigade from those who excelled in the stone-throwing games, using them as the vanguard. Caught off guard, Chu's forces were quickly overwhelmed. Within 2 years, Wang Jian conquered Chu. Upon his triumphant return, he retired to a peaceful life. 21. Han Xin defeats the Chu forces. In the year 202 BC, Liu Bang, the king of Han, along with over 300,000 soldiers, battled King Xiang Yu at the Battle of Gaixia. This battle was the final showdown between the Han and Chu states. The Han general, Han Xin, knew that Xiang Yu was unmatched in bravery but lacked strategic thinking. He decided to use a strategy called the ambush from 10 sides. Han Xin split his army into 10 units, setting up ambushes while supporting each other. He also asked Liu Bang to hold the fort at the camp while he led 30,000 troops to provoke Xiang Yu. Xiang Yu, who had always underestimated Han Xin, charged out as soon as he heard of the challenge. Seeing Xiang Yu's fierce charge, the Chu soldiers rushed into battle, disregarding their lives. Han Xin fought while strategically retreating, luring Xiang Yu into the trap. Xiang Yu relied solely on his bravery, relentlessly pursuing the Han forces. As the Han troops retreated a few miles, Han Xin signaled with fireworks, and 2 hidden units attacked Xiang Yu. Despite the surprise, Xiang Yu fought fiercely and the Han forces were pushed back. Xiang Yu continued the pursuit, fueled by the thrill of the fight, thinking, "With my spear, I fear nothing. Today, I must defeat Liu Bang once and for all." As more fireworks signaled, additional ambush units emerged, blocking Xiang Yu's path. After several rounds of intense fighting, the remaining Chu forces were significantly reduced, and many officers were injured or killed. Exhausted and with no options left, Xiang Yu decided to retreat while defending. At this critical moment, more fireworks went off, and ambush forces closed in from all directions, overwhelming Xiang Yu. The Chu soldiers, terrified, fled like rats. Xiang Yu, still armed with his spear, couldn't hold off the numerous Han weapons alone. Realizing his defeat, he desperately hoped to break through the encirclement. Shouting loudly, he charged forward, his spear clearing the path until he finally reached his camp at Gaixia. This defeat was the most humiliating moment of Xiang Yu's military career, leaving him deeply frustrated and unsure of his next steps. That night, his wife, Consort Yu, noticed his panicked and exhausted demeanor and inquired about the cause. Xiang Yu sighed. "We have lost, utterly lost." Consort Yu tried to comfort him, saying, "Victory and defeat are common in war. You shouldn't take it so hard." But Xiang Yu replied, "You don't understand. This battle was like no other I've ever faced." Trying to ease his spirits, Consort Yu ordered a feast prepared with wine. As Xiang Yu began to drink, a messenger reported that the Han forces had surrounded the camp. Xiang Yu ordered his troops to hold their positions and prepare for a final stand the next day. As the night deepened, Xiang Yu became drunk and was about to rest when he heard a sorrowful folk song from the Chu homeland echoing from the Han camp, stirring emotions of home among the Chu soldiers, leading to many deserting. Even Xiang Yu's uncle, Xiang Ba, defected to the Han camp seeking surrender. Realizing the overwhelming loss of his forces, Xiang Yu wept with Consort Yu, and they shared a poignant moment of singing about their doomed fate. After finishing their songs, Consort Yu took Xiang Yu's sword and ended her own life in despair. After mourning her, Xiang Yu and his loyal guards quietly escaped the camp. By dawn, as they reached the riverbank, Han forces swarmed in, preventing their crossing. Facing inevitable capture, Xiang Yu chose suicide. With Xiang Yu's death, Liu Bang eventually unified China, proclaiming himself Emperor Gaozu of Han. If you find these stories inspiring and they motivate you to take action, please comment 9. If not, comment 0. Your feedback means a lot to us. Thank you for your valuable time. 22. Stabilizing the empire. Shortly after becoming emperor, Han Chao Tuo appointed his siblings and descendants as dukes and princes, sending them to guard strategic locations. He appointed his son Liu Fei as Duke of Qi and his youngest brother Niu Zhao as Duke of Suo, among others. However, many of the generals who had been loyal to him for years received little in the way of rewards, which led to some discontent. One day, while walking outside the South Palace in Luoyang, Han Chao Tuo noticed a group of military men gathered by the river, whispering among themselves. Suspecting something was amiss, but not wanting to confront them directly, he sent his advisor, Zhang Liang, to investigate. Zhang Liang quickly reported back that they were plotting a rebellion. Shocked, Han Chao Tuo asked why they would turn against him. Zhang Liang explained that these men had supported him from his days as a commoner through to his conquest of the empire. Now, they felt neglected and feared retribution for past enmities, which could spur them to rebel. Han Chao Tuo was startled by the accuracy of Zhang Liang's insights and asked for advice. Zhang Liang pondered and asked who the emperor disliked the most. Han Chao Tuo named Wang Si, a commander who had switched allegiances multiple times during the wars. Although Han Chao Tuo had no grounds to dismiss him now that peace was achieved, Zhang Liang suggested granting Wang Si a title to avert potential disasters. Reluctantly, Han Chao Tuo followed this advice. At a feast the next evening, he praised the assembly and officially bestowed the title on Wang Si, who was deeply grateful and quickly expressed his thanks. The news spread, reassuring other officers who had not yet been rewarded, and soon rumors circulated that if even Wang Si could be honored, there was nothing to fear. From then on, the empire remained stable, and Han Chao Tuo grew to trust Zhang Liang's wisdom even more. 23. Strategic patience. The tactical victory of Wang Ba. During the Eastern Han Dynasty, Emperor Guangwu Liu Xiu, after stabilizing the north, moved his troops south in the year 29 AD. He sent General Ma Wu and cavalry commander Wang Ba to attack the city of Yue, which was then occupied by the rebel Liu Hu. Liu Hu sent to Mao with over 4,000 reinforcements to help. Ma Wu, underestimating the enemy, eagerly engaged in battle. Unexpectedly, enemy forces stormed out from two sides of the city, attacking Ma Wu from both directions, putting him in a tough spot. Eventually, he had to fight his way to Wang Ba's camp for help. However, Wang Ba ignored Ma Wu's pleas for help, refusing to send troops and even closing the camp gates, leaving Ma Wu to desperately shout for aid. Wang Ba's advisors urged him to fight, but he refused, believing the enemy was too fierce at the moment and that Ma Wu's defeat was due to underestimating the enemy. Wang Ba thought that if he opened the gates then, his forces would likely face a similar defeat. Instead, he decided to wait until the enemy was tired, then attack them with his fresh troops for a surprise victory. While Ma Wu's situation grew desperate, his soldiers resolved to fight to the death to find a way out. The battle raged on intensely, with neither side gaining a clear advantage. As the fight continued, some soldiers begged Wang Ba to let them join the battle. Finally, Wang Ba allowed it, but chose to attack from a rear gate with his best cavalry, taking the enemy by surprise. To Mao, engaged in battle with Ma Wu, was caught off guard by this and was wounded, forcing him to retreat. Ma Wu, initially furious at Wang Ba for not helping sooner, now felt immense gratitude for the rescue. After regrouping, Wang Ba and Ma Wu pursued the enemy. A few days later, Mao returned to challenge them again, but Wang Ba decided to keep the gates closed and let his soldiers rest, ignoring the provocation. An arrow shot towards Wang Ba was calmly deflected with his wine cup, which shocked his commanders. Wang Ba explained that Mao was likely running low on supplies and would not last long. He predicted that they would soon retreat, which they did by midnight. In the end, the city of Yue surrendered to the Han forces, and the rebel Liu Hu fled. Wang Ba's strategy of patience and calculated intervention led to a triumphant takeover of the city. 24. Perseverance and Passion, the journey of Liu Xi, China's literary master. Liu Xi was a famous literary theorist in China. From a young age, he was orphaned and often faced hardship, alternating between days of hunger and fullness. Despite his circumstances, he had a deep passion for learning and would often skip meals to save money to buy books. To make a living, he would chop wood in the mountains every day until dark, but he never missed a night of reading by the dim light of a lamp. One evening, while passing by Jinshan Mountain, he discovered a temple with an oil lamp that burned until dawn. He thought it would be a good idea to read there to save on oil. From then on, he traveled over 10 miles daily from his home to the temple to use the light for reading. The abbot of the temple, Master Hu, was an educated man who had collected many books. One night, a young monk reported to him that someone was reading in the main hall every night. Intrigued, Master Hu decided to investigate. Hiding behind the hall that evening, he saw a small figure sneak in. The figure went straight to the oil lamp, took out a book, and began reading earnestly. Master Hu approached the boy, and after learning about his situation, he was moved by his dedication to learning and took him as his student. Liu Xi studied under Master Hu, and his knowledge improved rapidly. After 10 years, he had become even more learned than his teacher. With Master Hu's encouragement, Liu Xi spent over 5 years writing a masterpiece on literary theory. Upon reading it, Master Hu was so impressed that he felt he could no longer teach Liu Xi and advised him to seek further education from a scholar named Shen Yue. When Liu Xi arrived at Shen Yue's house, he was mistaken for a beggar and turned away. So, he disguised himself as a bookseller and waited nearby. When Shen Yue returned and heard books being sold, he stopped his carriage. Liu Shi quickly presented his manuscript, asking for guidance. Shen Yue, a lover of talent and books, was amazed by the thick manuscript and invited Liu Shi inside. After reviewing the work carefully and praising it highly, Shen Yue offered some suggestions and named the book The Literary Mind and the Carving of Dragons. This book later became a classic text in ancient Chinese literary criticism, still read today. 25. Pham Lai, the strategist who knew when to withdraw. Pham Lai, also known as Thieu Ba, served as a high official in Vietnam during the late spring and autumn period. When King Fu Sai of Ngo moved his troops near Khoi Ke, Pham Lai strongly advocated for a peace settlement, which ultimately proved successful. Later, he accompanied King Cao Tien of Vietnam to Ngo as a hostage for 3 years, enduring many hardships. During his time in Ngo, he gained the trust of Ngo Pu Sai in various matters, ensuring King Cao Tien's safe return home. Along with another senior official, Van Chung, he devised numerous strategies to heal the wounds of war, boost production, and strengthen Vietnam, eventually helping to defeat the state of Ngo. While the country celebrated this victory, Pham Lai did not seek fame or rewards. He boldly chose to step back after the success of his efforts. He left his official career and went to the state of Tay to engage in business, becoming the wealthiest man in Daochao. Pham Lai's legacy endures, and he is celebrated as a prime example of someone who knew when to appropriately withdraw, earning widespread praise for his wisdom. 26. A Night of Great Change. A small river flowed calmly at the base of Mount Trula. The clear water reflected the white clouds above in the blue sky. Occasionally, fishing boats would cross the river, with fishermen singing as their boats brimmed with fresh fish. These boats frequently headed towards the city of Chuki. Women often washed clothes or rinsed silk by the riverbanks, where shepherd boys and their cattle came to drink. This river brought much joy to the local villagers. It was a summer afternoon. The sun was low and there was no breeze. The air was hot, filled with the loud chirping of cicadas. 3 young women with high buns and long dresses, carrying a bundle of silk, walked lightly to the riverbank to rinse the silk. They laughed and talked, and once they reached the river, they removed their embroidered shoes, stepping barefoot into knee-deep water, feeling the cool refreshment. The plump one playfully splashed water on the others. The splashed girls laughed heartily and joked, "Hey, Dong Ti, you're attacking us. Aren't you afraid we'll team up against you?" Dong Ti, laughing, replied, "Try me, Tay Ti and Trinh Dan. I'm not scared." As the evening approached, they continued splashing each other. Dong Ti, outnumbered, couldn't hold off the spirited assault of her friends for long. Drenched, she eventually raised her hands in surrender, laughing along with her friends. Suddenly recalling a recent expression, Dong Ti teased, "Tay Ti, yesterday I saw you frowning beautifully. Let me try that look." Mimicking the frown, Tay Ti couldn't help but burst into laughter, and Trinh Dan joined in, commenting on how comical Dong Ti looked. Dong Ti, feeling a bit self-conscious, asked, "Why does Tay Ti look good even when she's frowning?" Trinh Dan diplomatically avoided answering directly, reassuring Dong Ti that all young women are like fresh flowers, each beautiful in their own way. Their fun was interrupted when 2 dapper young men approached them with ill intentions, ogling them like predators. Tay Ti sternly warned them to behave. One of the men, charmed by Tay Ti, insisted on becoming friends, boasting of his father's high position. The other, taken with Trinh Dan, expressed his desire to marry her, highlighting his wealth. Despite their refusal, the men advanced, prompting a frightened shout for help from Dong Ti. At that moment, a brave young man in a blue robe appeared, running towards the confrontation. He scolded the rogues, declaring it everyone's duty to intervene in injustice. A fight ensued, and the young man, skilled in martial arts, quickly subdued the bullies who eventually fled, vowing revenge. Grateful Tay and her friends thanked the young hero, who turned out to be Pham Lai, a high-ranking official in disguise exploring the lives of common folk. They invited him to Tay-Thi's home, where a gathering under the moonlight allowed the villagers to share their hardships and hopes for peace and prosperity. Moved by their sincerity, Pham Lai promised to convey their concerns to the king. Pham Lai and Tay-Thi, having developed mutual affection, found themselves restless, eagerly awaiting dawn to express their feelings. However, their plans were disrupted by urgent news requiring Pham Lai's immediate return to the capital to address a national threat. Exchanging promises of loyalty and future reunion, Pham Lai rode away, leaving Tay-Thi at the gate, her heart filled with hope for his triumphant return.
If you like this video, please comment 1. And if you don't, comment 2. Your feedback means a lot to us. Thank you for your valuable time.
27. The Diplomatic Rescue Mission. Pham Lai rode his horse all night, rushing back to the Vietnamese capital of Coi Ke. As soon as King Viet saw Pham Lai, he urgently said, "Hurry, our troops are ready. Let's join forces and fight a decisive battle against the invading army of Ngo." The eternal enemy from the north, King Phu Sai of Ngo, had personally led 2 army divisions under Generals Ngo Vien and Ba Bi, launching a fierce attack on Vietnam. This war was initiated by King Phu Sai to avenge a former defeat suffered by his ancestor at the hands of the Vietnamese. After assessing the situation, Pham Lai suggested, "Perhaps we should seek peace with Ngo. We could offer them some land and treasures to appease them and plan our next moves afterward." King Viet, however, rejected this idea, saying, "No, that would only boost the enemy's morale and humiliate us. We've always stood against Ngo. Now that they are attacking, we can't show fear. Our tradition says to resist invaders. Ngo's forces are nothing to be scared of. Let's fight, I've made up my mind." Ignoring his advisors' counsels, King Viet took personal command of 30,000 troops, with Pham Lai and another general, Van Chung, guarding him. The naval battle took place at Phu Thieu, where King Phu Sai commanded from his ship. Dressed in armor, he drummed to inspire his troops, who were courageous and aided by favorable winds. Despite the Vietnamese troops' valiant efforts, they were heavily outnumbered and ultimately defeated. Pham Lai and Van Chung managed a strategic retreat, protecting King Viet, but the Ngo army pursued them to the mountains of Coi Ke. The situation was dire, with only 5,000 troops remaining, making King Viet regret not heeding Pham Lai's initial advice. At this point, Pham Lai advised, "Although it's late, we should still seek peace. It's like repairing the fence after the goats have escaped, but it's necessary for our survival. We might even need to personally go to Ngo to apologize and offer reparations." King Viet, seeing no other option, agreed. Van Chung suggested they first approach Ba Bi, a greedy and lustful official, with gifts to persuade him to advocate for peace with Phu Sai. They secretly delivered a large bribe to Ba Bi, who, pleased with the gold and women, persuaded King Phu Sai to consider peace. The next day, Van Chung humbly promised all riches and beautiful women from Vietnam as tribute. King Phu Sai, moved by the gesture, agreed to peace. However, one of his loyal generals, Ngo Vien, objected, saying this was like releasing a tiger back into the wild. King Phu Sai lifted the siege, and King Viet returned to his capital. Heartbroken but resolved, he prepared a generous tribute for Ngo, including the finest treasures and women. King Viet, knowing Pham Lai's wisdom, wanted him to stay and manage the country, but Pham Lai suggested he would be more useful accompanying the king to Ningbo, while Van Chung should stay to govern. Living with the enemy is like living beside a fierce tiger, very dangerous, said Pham Lai, but he was prepared to take the risk for his nation. King Viet, touched by Pham Lai's dedication, remarked, "In poverty, one sees the true children. In chaos, the loyal servants. You are truly a great loyalist, Pham Lai." 28. A Night of Loyalty. Cao Qian and his wife, Pham Lai, left their homeland with many gifts and beautiful women, feeling deeply nostalgic and reluctant to leave. Upon arriving in the capital of the Ningbo kingdom, Kou-to, Cao Qian instructed Pham Lai to present a portion of the gifts to the local noble, Ba Bi. Delighted by the offerings, Ba Bi eagerly awaited the formal meeting with the royal couple to speak highly of them to Ngo Fu Sai, the ruler of Ningbo. During the audience, dressed in prisoner's garb and in tears, Cao Qian and his wife knelt before Ngo Fu Sai, expressing their surrender and pledging their loyalty to the Ningbo kingdom. Fu Sai decided to detain 3 of Cao Qian's servants as hostages to ensure loyalty and assigned them the duty of managing the royal stables. The conditions were harsh for the hostages. They lived next to the tomb of a previous king in a damp, dark stone house that never saw sunlight and smelled of mold. They wore simple clothes, ate coarse food, and drank weak tea. Every morning before dawn, they swept the stables under the starlit sky. After breakfast, they herded the horses to the pasture and stayed up late at night to feed them. Cao Qian, who had always lived a life of luxury, found these rough and dirty chores unbearable. After a few months, he became thin, his face darkened, and he constantly sighed, lamenting his dark future. Pham Lai encouraged him, saying, "Your Majesty, you must be patient. Enduring these hardships is the path to overcoming them, and one day avenging your grievances. Our kingdom, descending from the great King Dai Vu, cannot let our ancestors down." One day, while Ngo Fu Sai was out, he had Cao Qian run alongside his horse as a display of power. Exhausted and sweating profusely, Cao Qian looked foolish, prompting the locals to point and scornfully remark, "Look, there goes Cao Qian, now just a horsekeeper for our king." Humiliated, Cao Qian wished he could disappear into the earth. That evening, back in the stone house, Cao Qian expressed his shame to Pham Lai. "I feel disgraced before our ancestors. I am unworthy of being their descendant. I'm so humiliated, I don't even want to live anymore." Pham Lai comforted him with a cup of hot tea and said, "Feeling shame is close to bravery. You must continue to endure. Remember, King Zhou of Shang, who was imprisoned yet survived eating his son's flesh to eventually triumph. This is an ancient lesson for us." Months passed, and Ngo Fu Sai, moved by the couple's respectful adherence to their duties despite their conditions, discussed with Ba Bi the possibility of releasing them as they had shown true loyalty. Ba Bi, pleased by the gifts he continued to receive from their homeland, agreed it was time to let them return. One night, Ba Bi brought the good news to Cao Qian, who was overjoyed. However, Pham Lai cautioned him, reminding him of the strategic challenges they still faced and not to celebrate too soon. As time went on, their loyalty and the peculiar circumstance of Cao Qian tasting the king's medicinal waste to prove his dedication left a strong impression on Ngo Fu Sai. Ultimately, their unwavering loyalty and the bizarre test they passed earned them the king's respect and their freedom, promising a long-lasting friendship between the two nations. 29. Sacrifice of love, offering to the beauty. On a clear autumn morning, flocks of geese formed a human-like pattern in the sky as they flew south. King Viet Vuong, having just left Ko fortress, felt like a bird released from its cage, deeply breathing the air of freedom. For 3 years, the confinement had been stifling. Pham Lai drove a luxurious chariot himself, inside which he and his wife, Cao Tian, sat side by side in royal robes. The sound of horse hooves pounded evenly on the road, the chariot speeding as if flying. Yet they felt it was slow, eagerly wishing to reach their homeland that they had been away from for 3 years. Upon hearing of King Viet Vuong's return, Von Chung from the city of Khoi Ke led civil and military officials 40 miles out to welcome him. When they met, it felt like a reunion in another world, tears streaming down everyone's faces. Touched, Viet Vuong said, "Today I am alive and return thanks to the great efforts of Pham Dai Phu." Pham Lai responded, "It's all thanks to your Majesty's resilience and endurance through the hardships. I hope you never forget the suffering of living in that stone house for the past 3 years and strive to make our country prosperous. Thus, our grudge against the state of Ngo will soon be avenged." Upon returning to the palace, Viet Vuong never allowed himself to think of a leisurely life. He always remembered the ancient saying, "The revenge of a gentleman can wait even 10 years." He began everything anew, appointing Pham Lai as the chief military advisor to strengthen the army and Van Chung to oversee the administration, pushing the country forward. Under their guidance, Viet Vuong was always respectful to the wise, loved the young, promoted production, and encouraged growth. The king maintained a simple diet and reminded himself daily of his humiliation at Mount Khoi Ke. Pham Lai renovated the capital, building higher walls and deeper moats, but he never closed the gates facing northwest, proclaiming, "Vietnam will forever be subordinate to the state of Ngo, so we dare not close our gates but rather keep them open for tributes." This deepened Ngo Phu Sai's trust that Vietnam would never betray him. Time passed, and the Vietnamese king, his officials and people were unified in focusing on production and training the army, the population growing steadily. 4 years after his return, Cao Tian asked his advisors if it was time to retaliate against Ngo. Pham Lai cautioned, "No matter how eager we are, we cannot rush hot porridge. The right moment to strike Ngo has not yet come. Ngo is currently eyeing the Central Plains, seeking dominance, and their military is strong under the command of General Ngu Yen. The heavens have not yet provided us with the right opportunity." Van Chung suggested weakening the enemy from within and waiting for the right moment to attack. Cao Tian agreed, and they devised a plan to exploit the enemy's weaknesses. Pham Lai, noting that Ngo Phu Sai was indulging in luxury, suggested sending him timber from Vietnam's rich forest to build his palace, thus depleting his resources. Van Chung proposed sending beautiful women to distract and weaken Ngo Phu Sai further. With Pham Lai's deep knowledge of the people, he was tasked with this mission. Pham Lai recalled his love, Tay Thi, from a past visit to the village of Tru La. He had met her while she was spinning by a river and had fallen deeply in love. Their love was interrupted by the sudden attack from No, and they were separated. During his time as a hostage in Ngo, Tai Thi's image haunted him, but he suppressed these thoughts to focus on national emergencies. After selecting beautiful women nationwide, no one surpassed Tai Thi. She was ranked first, and Trinh Dan was second. Cao Tian praised their beauty and instructed court musicians to train them in dance and music before Pham Lai led them to Ngo. Upon seeing Tai Thi and Trinh Dan, Ngo Phu Sai was mesmerized, believing they were celestial beings. He ordered them to be brought into his harem, rewarding Pham Lai. However, General Ngu Yen warned Ngo Phu Sai of the dangers beautiful women posed, citing historical examples of dynasties fallen due to women. Ignoring the advice, Ngo Fu Sai indulged in his desires, convinced of the loyalty shown by Cao Tian's offering of these women. Through this strategic move, Pom Lai and Tai Thi put their personal feelings aside, prioritizing their country's needs over their love, demonstrating profound patriotism and sacrifice. If you find these stories inspiring and they motivate you to take action, please comment 9. If not, comment 0. Your feedback means a lot to us. Thank you for your valuable time. 30. The favor of Ngo Fu Sai. Ngo Fu Sai, after taking the throne, favored two individuals, Tai Thi and Tring Dan, from the start. Tring Dan soon died, leaving Tai Thi as the sole favored beauty. She captivated Ngo Fu Sai completely, leading him to neglect his duties and ignore other members of his court. Seeing the potential danger in his behavior, Tai Thi confronted him, saying, "Your Majesty, you are a wise and great king. Why waste your potential in trivial pleasures? Our land is at peace, yet threats loom to the north and west. Shouldn't you strive to be like the great kings of the past and secure a lasting legacy?" Ngo Fu Sai saw Tai Thi in a new light, not just as a beauty but as a woman of political acumen. He listened to her advice more than ever, initiating major projects like the construction of a canal connecting the Yangtze and Yellow Rivers. He led his troops to victories in the north, consolidating his power. However, Ngo Fu Sai's disregard for his advisor, Ngu Vien's counsel, led to internal strife. Ngu Vien was forced to commit suicide after being falsely accused of treason, his last wish to witness the downfall of his nation. Years later, when Ngo Fu Sai attended a conference in the Central Plains, Pham Lai seized the opportunity to attack. Ngo Fu Sai hurried back but faced defeat. Regretting not heeding Ngu Vien's advice, he tried to negotiate peace, but his offers were initially rebuffed. Pham Lai advised the king of Viet, "Let's not rush to destroy them. Their strength is substantial. We should wait for a better opportunity." The king agreed, and peace was negotiated, with Ngo offering treasures and concessions. In his later years, Ngo Fu Sai continued to indulge in luxuries, constructing extravagant palaces, especially for Tai Thi, which drained the state's resources. Natural disasters followed, worsening the plight of his people. Hearing of these misfortunes, Pham Lai saw another chance to strike. He urged the Viet king to mobilize all forces, and they successfully invaded, leading to Ngo Fu Sai's eventual downfall. As his regime collapsed, he chose to end his own life, blindfolded, so he could not see the betrayal of his once loyal subjects. This story reflects the themes of leadership, wisdom, and the consequences of neglecting one's duties. 31. Courage to withdraw. After Gu Jian defeated the state of Wu, he returned home with numerous spoils of war, reveling in his victory daily. However, he had not yet rewarded his loyal followers before hastily sending people everywhere to search for Shi Shi. Some returned with news that Shi Shi had died in the chaos of war, while others reported that she had been killed by the queen to prevent her from captivating the king. Gu Jian felt a sense of loss upon hearing this. One day, Fan Li came to Gu Jian, requesting to withdraw from court life to become a hermit. He explained, "Ancient texts say that when a lord is dishonored, his servants must die. I did not die when you were dishonored at Kuaiji because I wanted to preserve my life to avenge you. Now that Wu has been destroyed and Fu Sai is dead, if you forgive me and allow me to retire to a life as free as clouds and cranes, I would be truly happy." Gu Jian was surprised and tried to persuade Fan Li to stay, but Fan Li was resolute in his decision. Gu Jian said, "Fan, you are a great hero who has helped me avenge my enemies. Why would you leave me now? If you stay, I would gladly share my wealth and honor with you. However, if you insist on leaving, I will have to kill your entire family. Think carefully about your choice." Fan Li calmly replied, "Life and death are destined, and wealth is from heaven. The decision is yours, but I must go." That dark night, Fan Li mysteriously disappeared. The next day, Gujian sent people to find him, but they could not. He consulted Wen Zhong, asking, "Can we bring Fan Li back?" Wen Zhong replied, "A person with such determination cannot be forced to stay. Now that he wants to retire from official life, please accept his noble intention." Gujian sighed deeply and ordered a statue of Fan Li to be made and placed in the court as a long-lasting tribute. Wen Zhong later received a letter from Fan Li stating, "After the fox is hunted, the hounds are killed. When the enemy is defeated, the strategists are destroyed. A king can share hardships but not wealth. If you don't leave, disaster will strike." Wen Zhong thought the letter exaggerated, believing Gujian would never kill a loyal minister like him. However, soon after, Gujian, fearing Wen Zhong's influence, forced him to commit suicide. Before dying, Wen Zhong regretted not heeding Fan Li's honest advice, which led to his wrongful death. Where did Fan Li go? On the night he left, a boatman on Tai Lake saw a stunningly beautiful woman in his boat, none other than Shi, a renowned beauty and hero of their times. Fan Li led Shi through Tai Lake to the East Sea, reaching the state of Qi, where he changed his name to Shidi Tu Teach and became a merchant. He traded wisely, making light profits but selling much, and respected all customers, whether young boys or senile old men, quickly becoming very wealthy. Hearing of his success, the king of Qi sent an envoy with a royal seal inviting him to become an official. Fan Li distributed his wealth among the poor, hung up the seal, and moved to the land of Tao, taking the name Tao Ju Gong. He continued as a merchant and wrote a book titled Techniques for Wealth, which included contributions from Shi, his wise and beautiful wife. Their accomplishments were said to be due to their cooperative efforts. 32. Sun Tan, a resilient military strategist of endurance. Sun Tan was a prominent military figure in the state of Qi during the Warring States period. He was a descendant of Sun Wu, another significant military figure. Previously, it was unclear whether the famous military treatise, The Art of War, was authored by Sun Wu or Sun Tan. Some believed it was a collaborative work between the two. It wasn't until the 1970s that archaeological discoveries of bamboo slips titled Sun Tan's Art of War confirmed that each had their own separate works. Both of these military texts are products of theoretical reasoning and practical experience. Each has its unique strengths and remains a valuable military heritage of China, highly regarded and utilized by top military leaders and scholars worldwide. 33. The Brotherhood of Kim Long. During the Eastern Zhou dynasty in Yangcheng, there was a mountain valley named Ghost Valley. It was a place of high mountains, deep ravines, dense forests, and abundant water, often shrouded in mist and echoes of birds and monkeys. Due to its distance from urban areas, few people visited, giving it a mysterious aura. In this valley lived an elderly sage named Ghost Valley Master. Despite his white hair and beard, his complexion was youthful and his wisdom profound. He chose to live away from officialdom, finding the valley's secluded beauty ideal for meditation and teaching. Among his students were Tutan, Zhang Yi, Sun Tan, and Pang Quan, all of whom would become famous historical figures. One summer afternoon, as the sun cast long shadows across the lush landscape, two men in their 30s descended the mountain path, each carrying an empty water jug, heading towards a stream on the mountainside. A gentle breeze cooled their sweaty faces, energizing them. The fair-skinned, slightly thinner man turned to his darker, bearded companion, saying, "Hey, Pongquan, pick up the pace. What's on your mind?" Pongquan replied, "I'm right behind you. Why do you move faster with shorter legs?" Sun Tan laughed, "And why can't you keep up with longer legs?" Pongquan took a deep breath. "We've been learning here for 3 years, and now I want to leave the mountain to seek fortune and honor." Sun Tan replied, "What's the hurry? Our master still has much to teach us. Learning is as vast as the ocean. When will it ever end?" Pongquan looked up confidently. "I've mastered military strategies, enough to command armies and conquer lands." Reaching the stream, they filled their jugs with clear water, making their return uphill much harder. Soaked with sweat and panting, Sun Tan suggested, "Let's rest a bit." Pongquan agreed, setting down his load by an ancient pine and saying, "I'm hungry. Let's find some wild fruits first." Sun Tan also set down his jug. "You rest, I'll pick the fruits." He quickly climbed a tree, gathering ripe peaches and plums filling his robe. He descended, joyfully spilling the fruits onto a rock where they tumbled clean. Pongquan, drooling at the sight, grabbed the largest peach. "Wait!" Sun Tan stopped him. "Shouldn't we save the best for our master?" Pongquan pouted, "They're just wild fruits. Why bother?" Sun Tan explained, "He's our master, our lifelong teacher. We should always honor him." Pongquan appeared to agree, but reluctantly set the peach down. They then feasted on the remaining fruits before shouldering their heavy jugs again. On the way back, Sun Tan took turns carrying both jugs, helping Pongquan through the steep path. At a flat section near their home, Pongquan suggested, "Sun Tan, you're always so helpful. Let's become sworn brothers." "Great idea." They broke off a branch to use as incense, used the fruits as offerings, and kneeling, they swore to the heavens to share fortunes and hardships as brothers. Suddenly, their master, Ghost Valley Master, appeared behind them. Sun Tan explained their oath, and the master approved, praising the value of unity. Afterwards, they continued to support each other, embodying the ideal of brotherhood. 34. Feigning insanity to avoid disaster. Bang Qian was from the state of Wei. After returning to Wei's capital, Dai Luang, he was recommended to meet King Wei Huivuang. King Wei Huivuang was a generous ruler, determined to make his country prosperous, and was actively recruiting talented individuals. Recognizing Bang Qian's tall stature and exceptional speech, and knowing that he was a student of the famous teacher QUACH, the king trusted him even more. After several meetings, Bang Qian consistently impressed the king with his discussions on important national matters, leading to his appointment as the general and military advisor. Bang Qian's son, Bang An, and his nephews Bang Thong and Bang Mao were also made generals, known collectively as the Wei family generals. Once in power, Bang Qian immediately began to expand and train the military with the king's approval. Under his command, the army first conquered the cities and lands of the Wei and Tong states, achieving significant victories. Following this, Bang Qian repelled an invasion by the Tai state into Wei. His fame spread across the vassal states, and he became overly proud, forgetting his sworn brother Tan Tan, who was still studying under QUACH. Tan Tan, focused on his studies in the remote QUACH, was unaware of external affairs. One day, Mac Tu visited QUACH for the second time and met Tan Tan. Impressed by Tan Tan's understanding of military strategy, Mac Tu encouraged him to leave the mountain to seek fame and contribute to society. TON mentioned that his classmate Bang Yin was now an official in Wei and had promised to recommend him to the king once he had established himself. Questioning why Bang Yin had not yet recommended him, TON believed it was likely due to Bang Yin's busy schedule. MAC2 then traveled to Wei to meet Bang Yin and inquire about TON's recommendation. Bang Yin dismissively responded without sincerity, angering MAC2, who decided to recommend TON directly to King Huang. The king was pleased to hear of another talented student of QUACH and asked MAC2 who was more talented between TON and Bang Yin. MAC2 explained that while both were students under the same teacher, the true measure of their talent depended on their personal capabilities, suggesting that TON, being a descendant of Vo and inheritor of his secret teachings, was more talented than Bang Yin. After MAC2 left, the king summoned Bang Yin to inquire why he hadn't recommended TON. Unhappy but pressured by the king's direct question, Bang Yin falsely claimed that since TON was from the T state, he might not remain loyal to Wei. The king questioned if Bang Yin's worries were justified, citing a proverb about loyalty to one's close friends, and expressing his intention to treat TON well so that he would serve Wei faithfully. Despite Bang Yin's outward agreement to the king's wishes, he internally feared TON's superior talents might threaten his own position. Hence, he did not truly wish to recommend TON. Once the king insisted, Bang Yin reluctantly agreed, but planned to find a way to manipulate the situation. When TON received Bang Yin's letter and the king's invitation, he joyously left QUACH to travel to Luoyang, initially visiting Bang Yin to thank him. Bang Yin deceitfully hid his true feelings. The next day, during an audience with King Huang, TON and the king found great agreement in their discussion of state matters, making the king lament not meeting TON sooner. Considering appointing TON as deputy military advisor alongside Bang Yin, the king sought Bang Yin's opinion. Bang Yin, while inwardly disturbed, suggested TON be appointed as a guest official temporarily, allowing him to earn a higher position through his achievements. The king agreed, impressed by Bang Yin's reasoned approach. Later, the king tested TON's military acumen by ordering a troop drill, where TON immediately understood and could manage both his and Bang Yin's strategies. Recognizing his talent, the king planned to reward both. However, Bang Yin grew jealous and conspired against TON by spreading rumors about his loyalty to his homeland T, potentially endangering Wei if given significant military power. The king initially ignored these rumors. Bang Yin continued to undermine TON, even while outwardly maintaining a friendship. He secretly sent a servant disguised as a merchant from Te to deceive TON with a forged letter, which led the king to believe that TON wished to betray Wei for Te. This misinformation led to TON's arrest and trial. Despite the king's reluctance to execute TON without concrete evidence, Bang Yin manipulated the situation to have TON crippled instead of killed, under the guise of maintaining state security while sparing a talented individual. TON, now disabled, was dependent on Bang Yin, who requested the teachings of TON military tactics, which TON loyally provided. However, when Bang Yin plotted to starve TON after obtaining the teachings, TON realized his deceit and, pretending to be insane, destroyed the teachings. He lived in a decrepit state, ignored by Bang Yin, until he was secretly rescued by a Te envoy disguised as a madman. The envoy, a student of MAC2, had been instructed by the T king to save TON. This successful rescue deeply humiliated Bang Yin, who believed TON had died, allowing TON to escape back to Te safely.
If you like this video, please comment 1. And And if you don't, comment 2. Your feedback means a lot to us. Thank you for your valuable time.
35. Winning strategy in horse racing. After Cam Hoat rescued Ton Ton from the state of Wei using the cicada shedding its shell strategy, they quickly returned to the capital of the key state, Lam Tree. After bathing and changing into fresh clothes, Ton Ton regained his imposing appearance. Due to Maktu's recommendation and knowing that Ton Ton had feigned madness to escape, the King of Qi held him in high regard and planned to offer him a significant official position. However, Ton Ton declined, stating that he had not yet earned such rewards and feared that Bang Qian might cause trouble if he learned of Ton Ton's return. He suggested staying incognito until a suitable opportunity arose for him to serve the king. General Dian Qi, eager to learn from Ton Ton, invited him to stay as a guest in his home. Dian Qi, known for valuing wise men, sought Ton Ton's advice on both state affairs and personal matters, deeply regretting only meeting him later in life. One day, Dian Kai appeared troubled after returning home. He explained to Ton Ton that horse racing had become popular in Qi, promoted by the king to boost the martial spirit of the people. The king himself participated, and his horses were of the highest quality, leading to Dian Qi's frequent losses, including a recent loss of 100 taels of gold. Ton Ton comforted him by quoting from military strategies, suggesting that understanding the opponent in horse racing is akin to preparing for battle. He offered to help Dian Qi by observing the races to devise a winning strategy. Soon, another race was organized, and Ton Ton accompanied Dian Qi to the venue, bustling with colorful flags and the sounds of horses and spectators. After witnessing the races, where horses were categorized by ability into 3 classes, Ton Ton devised a plan to exploit this system. At the next event, Dian Qi, encouraged by Ton Ton's confidence, wagered 1,000 taels of gold. Despite a poor start, Dian Kai's horses won 2 out of 3 races, securing the victory and the gold, much to the astonishment of the king and the roaring approval of the crowd. The king, surprised by the sudden change in fortune, inquired about the strategy. Ton Ton explained that they had cleverly matched their horses against those of the king, focusing on strategic advantages rather than direct confrontations, a principle from military tactics. The king, impressed by Ton Ton's wisdom and strategy, celebrated his victory and acknowledged Ton Ton's exceptional intellect and strategic mind. 36. The Cunning Rescue of ZHAO, a strategic masterpiece in ancient warfare. In the autumn of 354 BC, Pang Huan believed that Sun Bin was dead and thought he had no rivals left. Wanting to display his extraordinary talents and expand the territory of the Wei state, he convinced King Hui of Wei to approve a campaign. Leading a force of 100,000 elite troops, Pang Huan attacked the allied state of ZHAO. The capital of ZHAO, Handan, was besieged, and ZHAO sought help from the Qi state. King Wei of Qi appointed Sun Bin as the commander to rescue ZHAO, but Sun Bin declined, arguing that his appointment would show Qi's lack of capable people and alert Pang Huan that he was still alive, which would be detrimental to both himself and Qi. Instead, he recommended General TIANG as the commander. On the day of the campaign, TIANG ordered the Qi troops to march directly to Handan. Sun Bin objected, explaining that the ZHAO forces were no match for Pang Huan, and that by the time their troops arrived, Handan would likely have fallen, likening it to bringing an umbrella after the rain had started. He suggested instead that they should attack Wei's capital, Daliang, to force Pang Huan to retreat to save his own state. This strategy worked, and as Pang Huan hurried back to protect Daliang, Sun Bin prepared an ambush at Quelong, where Pang Wan's exhausted troops would pass. During the ensuing battle, General TRUONG, disguised in armor and wielding a long spear, confronted Pang Wan and challenged him to fight, exploiting his knowledge of military formations to trap Pang Wan's forces. Despite Pang Wan's attempts to counterattack, he was eventually overwhelmed and forced to retreat with heavy losses, securing a strategic victory for Qi and Sun Bin. 37. Retreat and Cook Reduction. After seeing Pang Quan's defeated troops flee, Sun Tan realized that their mission to save ZHAO was accomplished, so he consulted with TRUONG about withdrawing their victorious army back to their country. Although Pang Quan was defeated, he had previously succeeded in capturing the city of Hamdan, so King Wei Hui did not punish him and allowed him to retain command of the military. Unwilling to accept defeat, Pang Quan was determined to avenge his loss at Quelong and sent envoys with gold and silver to the state of Qi to sow discord. They falsely accused TRUONG of planning a rebellion to seize the throne of Qi. King Qi Wei, deceived by this plot, became suspicious of TRUONG. Upon learning of the king's doubts, TRUONG resigned his military post under the pretext of illness to dispel any suspicions. Sun Tan also resigned from his position as military advisor and stayed home to focus on poetry and reading. When Pang Quan heard that King Qi Wei fell for the deception, he was delighted and convinced King Wei Hui to invade the state of Han. In 343 BC, King Wei Hui appointed Prince Shen as the commander-in-chief and Pang Quan as the general, launching a full-scale assault aimed at annihilating Han. Han I Hu, seeing the unstoppable momentum of Wei's forces, sent envoys to Qi for help. By that time, King Qi Wei had died, and his son King Xuan succeeded him. After receiving the plea for help from an ally, King Qi Xuan reinstated TRUONG and Sun Tan and called a court meeting to discuss the rescue of Han. General Zhou Ji suggested that since Han and Wei were fighting their own battle, Qi should remain neutral and not interfere. TRUONG disagreed, arguing that if Wei conquered Han, it would become too powerful and eventually seek revenge on Qi for the defeat at Quelong. The court was divided between supporters of Zhou Ji and TRUONG. When King Qi Xuan saw Sun Tan silently biting his lip and not expressing any opinion, he asked for Sun Tan's thoughts. Sun Tan confirmed that he disagreed with both opinions and proposed a third strategy. He argued that if they didn't help Han, it would mean abandoning them, allowing Wei to grow stronger. However, if they rushed to Han's aid immediately, they would end up fighting Han's war for them, bearing the brunt of the war's costs. Sun Tan suggested that they should promise aid to Han to keep their morale up while waiting for both Han and Wei to suffer heavy losses, then intervene to seize the advantage with minimal effort. King Qi Xuan praised this as a brilliant strategy. Sun Tan then sent scouts to Han to monitor the battle situation and continuously report back. After learning that Han had been forced to retreat to their capital after 5 defeats, Sun Tan advised King Qi Xuan to send troops. King Qi Xuan appointed TRUONG as the general, YING as the deputy general, and Sun Tan as the military advisor, leading 100,000 troops to rescue Han. However, Sun Tan stopped TRUONG from advancing, reminding him that previously they had managed to rescue ZHAO without entering ZHAO's territory. Could they not do the same for Han? Realizing Sun Tan's plan, TRUONG agreed to surround Wei instead of directly engaging them. The 100,000 troops of Qi marched towards Wei, just as they had previously marched to save ZHAO, aiming straight for the heart of Wei, the capital city of Daliang. Meanwhile, Pang Quan, after invading Han and experiencing significant resistance from Han's forces, was eventually successful in his campaigns but received urgent orders from King Wei Hui to return to Wei due to Qi's invasion. Sun Tan, upon hearing of Pang Quan's retreat, advised Dian Ji to exploit Wei's aggressive and contemptuous attitude towards Qi by pretending to be afraid, which would inflate their arrogance and then strike unexpectedly to defeat them. Dian Ji consulted further with Sun Tan, who whispered a plan to him, making Dian Ji happy to execute it. As Pang Quan hurriedly led his victorious troops back to Wei, determined to have a final showdown with Sun Tan's strategy was set to spring into action. If you find these stories inspiring and they motivate you to take action, please comment 9. If not, comment 0. Your feedback means a lot to us. Thank you for your valuable time.